Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you, I've been sleeping on the Bullfrog because I have been. People have been telling me in the comments now from day one on that I should give the Bullfrog a try, and I neglected them. But now after the recent bullet velocity findings from JGod, I was like, this gotta be tried out. Having 1,000 meters per second bullet velocity on this gun seems like an absolute argument to make it your #1 sniper support gun. Let's go down on the explain series, recoil patterns, damage profiles, range, everything, latest findings from true game data on which barrel is actually the best barrel to be used on SMGs, and more to come. Enjoy the Bullfrog explained. Let's talk stats first. Everyone seems to be running the Mag-10, and I think the Bullfrog is heavily overlooked because it is a tremendous good gun, considering that it also has absolute zero recoil. You're going to see it in the recoil test comparison. The Mag-10 has definitely way more wibble wobble bibble bounce, especially the horizontal area that the Bullfrog doesn't have to deliver. If we're looking at the time to kill, we have really not much different, 538 versus 559. That's the base time to kill with the damage drop off here happening. But if we already look at the headshot multiplier, for example, right now, the Bullfrog just absolutely outclasses the Mag-10. So one single headshot already changes the TTK absolutely in the Bullfrog's favor. If we're looking at tummy shots, for example, they're evening out again. And then if we're going down to extremities again, the Bullfrog wins. So all in all, when we look at the damage profile here, the Bullfrog has 55 in comparison to 30, 34, 34, and 30. So it does more damage on every single part of the body, whereas obviously the Mag-10 has an insane fire rate. Also to consider that the base velocity of the Mag-10 here behind my head, 356, extremely low compared to the Bullfrog. The Bullfrog has a very good velocity that you can absolutely increase. If we're looking at the velocity chart here, you can easily see that the Bullfrog with the Liberator reinforced and even the Task Force barrel goes up to 900, whereas the Mag-10 tops can go up to 727 with a reinforced heavy and the Task Force 2 up to 620. So the bullet velocity is tremendously higher, plus then also the Groove Suppressor, which makes the Bullfrog an absolute perfect candidate to be a support gun for a sniper, whereas the Mag-10 feels like to be the perfect just SMG candidate together with an AR or LMG. The Bullfrog seems to be the way better companion for a Kar 98 than the Mag-10 will ever be. Also, very interesting findings from our buddy True Game Data that's been providing all the stats. It seems like that the Task Force barrel is the only barrel that gives sufficient range modifier plus. As we know, all the barrels say like effective damage range, bullet velocity, effective damage range, Task Force, effective damage range. Obviously, the bullet velocity on some is a lie that has been debunked, and we have a very good list for that. ! Velocity in the Twitch chat. You can see all of this list. I'm going to link it in the description below too. So that is where the true velocities are lying. But the question was obviously always, does the effective damage range also apply? And Anthony tested that, MrTrueGameData.com, and he figured out that the Task Force is the vibe. So you might have to now look at the list here. What are we looking for? Do we want to really use it as an SMG, or do we want to use it as a gun paired with a sniper? For example, if we're looking at the Bullfrog right now, you have the Task Force barrel which gives you 904 bullet velocity plus 76%, which is insane. You have 1,000 bullet velocity together with a Groove Suppressor, and you're going to be absolutely hit scan. And on top of that, you do actually increase your effective damage range by 50%, which if we're looking at the damage chart here, we have like a fall off that's happening here at 15 meters, and we can increase that by 50%. So we can add another 7 meters to this, plus then the 10% that the suppressor adds. That seems fantastic, moving your time to kill up tremendously. That means this damage fall off here that's happening at, let's say, 20 meters can be increased to 30. Next damage fall off here happening at 26 meters. You can hire also up by another 13. So that makes the whole gun way more viable than it already is, and definitely increases your battle capabilities straight up surround the board. Now let's look at the base recoil and which attachment we need to make this gun a beast. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have the base Bullfrog here. And number one thing you can see, which recoil on the gun. Which recoil are we talking about? The gun has an absolute insignificant, non-existent recoil that just goes away into the wall. And the funny part at the end here, at the end of the magazine, it kind of stops having, again, any kind of recoil, just as the Groza feels like. So you're beaming up, and you get there. So what we want to do is obviously want to cluster it a little bit together probably. But even with the clustering together, you have such a manageable fire rate that you can just go away and you can just get it in without any problems. Like really, the recoil is nothing to be talked about, and especially considering this is 12 meters now. So this would be us shooting on someone that we sniped before, or 20 meters, as we've seen. Effective damage range is possible. But if you're close up, that's nothing. What does the base hipfire look like on 5 meters? It's a very manageable hipfire, as you can see. Like, obviously, it gets pulled off vertical a bit due to the gun just having a good fire rate of 700 plus. But all in all, as you can see from here to here, it's very nicely clustered. So we would actually try to then stand 5 meters away and hold our hipfire down at one spawn. It's going very good in. And that's without a laser, no hipfire attachment. Definitely put on a laser and see how much that was being improved. Next up, we now have the Task Force version. Because, as we talked about, the Task Force barrel seems to be the best, but the Task Force should also increase the recoil tremendously. We did not put a single grip on, so we're playing it with a Grew suppressor, still 65 round mag. I'll put on a bigger mag later on, but that's just for the recoil testing here. And the most important part is that we also put on the stock, the SAS combat stock. And the SAS combat stock is supposed to also hire the hipfire. So we put on a 5 milliwatt laser to make the hipfire better, and then a stock for better movement speed. But we'll see if the stock is actually going to ruin the hipfire compared to the no stock version, for example, which is meant to make the hipfire better. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Task Force barrel making the recoil absolutely unhandleable and awful, and nothing pretty much changed. It is more or less, as you can see here, the same spray. They're absolutely similar to each other. Nothing really changed on these sprays. Technically be better due to the 5 milliwatt laser, practically be worse due to the SAS combat stock. So we're first gonna not control it at all as we did the last time. 5 meters away. It is already way more clustered. I mean, this is a significant difference from the right to the left in comparison to this right to left. It's pretty nice. Your strafe speed is very good. I like that. And especially when you're shooting, you're moving even faster. That's the advantage of this. Now, what if I try to hold this hipfire? So let's move 5 meters away. Try to hold the hipfire. And we're actually working against the recoil. I even had negative recoil. Yeah, you definitely, this is a very nice cluster on 5 meters. I mean, with this, I can actually aim for upper torso and head very easily to get that down. Obviously, big question now, does the hipfire get better with the no stock? And does on range, maybe we have more wibble, wobble, and bounce if I do add a no stock, because the no stock is supposed to add idle sway. Now, the Bullfrog no stock. So the Bullfrog no stock should have more idle swaying. As you can see, the gun already goes from left to right. So I would expect to see that in the recoil. But I'm not 100% sure if you will actually see that in the recoil. No, you're not. It's just the feeling. Like, if you're holding the gun already, you see, like, in comparison to the gun before, there's idle sway here in this one with the stock. But this one without a stock just seems to have like a little bit more. It might just be because the stock is missing. Like here, you have the stock that's aligning with your face, right? And here you don't have a stock that's aligning with your face. So visually it just feels a little bit more. Recoil-wise, they're exactly the same. But the question obviously now is, what is about the hipfire? So technically, the no stock should not improve the hipfire. Practically, there's a world where it does that in Modern Warfare. So why should it not do it in here? That's, as always, the question, right, ladies and gentlemen? Now, would we say this hipfire is improved or not? Let's do another one. Now, either I'm weird or I'm not weird, but it seems for me that no stock would make it better. It's just smaller. Am I crazy? I'm not crazy, right? Like, if you measure from this to that bullet, from there to this bullet, it does feel like that the no stock actively has a bigger cluster in the middle in comparison than the SAS combat stock. Huh. Who would have guessed? That feels fantastic. Now, one of my big questions would be, do the foregrips do anything? So we slapped on a Spetznas foregrip, same builds, Task Force barrel. This time, obviously, there's the base stock on. And now let's see if the grip does make a difference in the spray in comparison. Does it in any way reduce the recoil? Yes, you can see that already. Wow. That's quite telltaling here, actually. Yep, the whole horizontal bound that we have here left and right feels way more together. I am very flabbergasted about this. How does that go down on Hipfire if we actually just Hipfire it away now? If we just Hipfire this away now, how does this clutch down? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I guess we have a candidate going on. Right now, we're having the 5 milliwatt laser. We're having the GRU suppressor on, the task force, the Spetznas, and the bonus magazine. That seems to be the winner of today's How Could the Bullfrog Be the Best, considering that the recoil is just so much improved in comparison. That's crazy. I love it. Damn. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, what would that final Bullfrog build look like? As we said, task force. For the bullet velocity up to 900 plus, there's no vertical recoil control minus and no horizontal minus. It's the same. But you do get the effective damage range and the bullet velocity, which is fantastic. Then the GRU suppressor for the sound suppression and even more damage range because we're using it as a sniper support gun. Even if you're using it as a close quarter combat gun, the GRU suppressor does give also 10% recoil control, which is fantastic, and therefore is in every way better than the Spetznas compensator will ever be. Then it turns out that the Spetznas grip actually does a very good job. As you've seen, there was an immense recoil control happening. We're slapping on the 5 milliwatt laser because it really clustered the hipfire spread nicely and gives this gun a chance to be a hipfire gun. Where then on top of that, you have to consider, do you want to go for the 65 round fast mag, 65 round speed mag or not? You have very good bullet damage. As you have seen, you have 34 bullet damage. You have 65 bullets total, and you already have a good reload time. We have to consider now, you want to really run the 85 round mag, Vandal speed loader at 85 round fast mag? The answer is no, because that reduces the ADS time significantly, and you already have an extremely low ADS time. Why would you scalp that? So I would say the 65 round speed mag is probably the best you do have. So that worst case scenario, you would have a quick reload time, but your ADS time would not be impacted in any way big negative. Therefore, you probably have the best Bullfrog out there to zoom over the battlegrounds. What are we pairing this with? Let me present you my new favorite rifle, where we're also going to have an explain series dropping on a couple of gameplay videos. It's the M82. The M82 is a so-called artillery gun. You're going to play the 22.6 combat recon barrel. Yes, the Tiger team has a slight higher fire rate, but the recon barrel is the one that actually gives you the most bullet velocity, together with a wrap suppressor going for like 800-900, which is still low, but more than the right tag. You see the bullet really going out like an artillery arc, and if you're a 5,000 hour PUBG player as me, it does feel like this gun is made for you. We put on, very important, the Royal Cross 4X, and what we have been playing here was the blue dots, but I have to say the blue dots have not been feeling like the super vibe on range shots, because on range shots you're often feeling like that you're missing a T to kind of line to that. So I'll be having to work on slowly unlocking further reticles that I can then use the gun also with that. The rear grips don't really do a lot, or what we're measured is absolutely minimal, but I just really want to feel that they do something. So I am playing the airborne elastic wrap. It might do like 10 milliseconds or 5 milliseconds on 240 hertz tested. So it's really nothing until it's fixed, but I really just want to have the psychological feel that I'm faster ADSing, because it does feel absolutely terrible. Then I could play a bonus magazine that you just have more shots, but I mostly feel like that the shots are enough in the gun, and I really just want to have a little bit more control on the follow-up shots. So you're like, poof, poof. I mean, this is, yes, this gun is spammable, but you're not going to spam it. Still, though, the bipod allows you a quicker succession fire rate, and kind of that the gun doesn't fly out of your hand that much. M82, an absolute monster, and yes, a one-shot headshot. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have not tried out the Bullfrog yet, give it a go. You've seen in the beginning clips, it's an absolute mental fryer. The gun is just going out of hands, clapping jimmies left and right. Beautiful. I was so surprised about how good it was. It was definitely my #1 sniper support gun right now, over the ASVAL even, due to just how reliable it feels. Yes, the ASVAL has a better TTK damage profile, but that does not take away how mental this gun is, especially considering the super magazine plus the great hipfire capabilities that the ASVAL does not have compared to this. I wish you a wonderful, fantastic time. Please drop in the comments below how your Bullfrog build is looking, what you're playing together with it, and tell me your experiences you had with the gun. Looking really forward to hear from you. Also, don't forget the live stream, Twitch TV Ponyhof from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. where we're clapping with these guns, Jimmy's left and right over Verdansk all day long, and the second YouTube channel, Ponyhof Plays, where there's more beautiful variety content to come. Have a wonderful good time and see you soon in Verdansk.